Welcome to the Beasts of the NFC's podcast. I am your host, Sean Gnitzcavich, with my co-host, Jeremy Goode. Week 3 is in. Jayden Daniels is growing up in front of our eyes. Malik Nabers is saving Daniel Jones' career. Saquon is feeding families in Philadelphia. And the Eagles, or not the Eagles, but the Cowboys. The Cowboys kind of suck. Jeremy Goode, what is good?
Yeah, great week. Great week. Impressive week for the division besides one team. Yeah, pretty wild 3 games for the 3 winners in their own way going forward with the Giants, Eagles, and Washington, even though I don't think the Bengals are anywhere close to being good at all. But, you still got to win. You still have a rookie quarterback that you're
Flowers,
trying to find.
Yeah,
learn about, find out who he is. So, it's always nice to get a win out. I've always said, too, and we'll get into this, but, when the Eagles lost to Atlanta week 2, everybody was upset. And when the Eagles win close games, they're like, well, you can't survive that way going forward. And it's true, but winning is so much better than losing, regardless how you win. So that's why I can't say it about people. But, yes, we move on. 3 wins in the division and productive week for everyone.
Yeah.
And everyone's happy about the team that lost, I think, too.
I think everybody, even like the non-division fans, but if you're new here, we cover the NFC East, and we're going to be covering every single NFC East matchup. We're going to do a little fantasy recap of me and Jeremy's super fun fantasy league, and then we're going to preview these week 4 games, which are looking pretty exciting, starting off with a bang. But anything you want to say before we get into these?
Yeah, let's jump into it.
All right, starting off strong. Perhaps one of the best games of the week. No, that's a little biased, but one of the best halves of the week. The New York Football Giants go into Cleveland and beat Deshaun Watson's pervy ass 21-15. Man, what a game it was. It makes me kind of hate losing to Washington in the fashion that we did that much more because I'm starting to have a little bit of faith in the New York Football Giants. Believe it or not, it's not just Malik Nabers. The Malik Nabers magic is real, and I think that is fueling most of this because we haven't had an exciting player to watch like this since Odell. And now it's just so much fun to watch football because Malik Nabers looks like he can do anything. He's making incredible catches. He has great separation, great yards after the catch. And then, he's also great at the 50-50 balls, just yanking them out of defenders' hands. And also our defense stepped up on Sunday in a big way. Shane Bowen was dialing it up blitzes again. So that whole offseason where he talks about how he just wants to focus on the four rushers up front, getting all the pressure. No, a lot of the success came from dialed up blitzes, but also we were able to be very successful with our front 4, getting pressures, getting sacks, getting strip sacks. Granted, it was against a really terrible Browns offense, but we were also missing Adoree Jackson for most of the game. Andrew Phillips got injured early, and he was out for most of the game. And he's been, according to PFF, one of the best rookies coming out of the slot for us, and he's performed incredibly well. Let's just get into this. Malik Nabers, right now, is the second best odds to win Rookie of the Year behind another great NFC East rookie, Jayden Daniels. What are your thoughts on this game, Jeremy?
Yeah, needed win for New York. I think we both agreed going in. It didn't matter that it was in Cleveland because even though they have a good fan base, it's not like the raunchiest fans, and it didn't feel like you had a disadvantage. You have to travel, but it's not Cleveland's not far from New York either, so it's a quick flight. They did what they had to. Daniel Jones made some plays. They beat a bad team. I'll be honest, the Browns are bottom 5 in the NFL by a lot, but still have to win those games. And for a team that hasn't been winning games in the Giants against good teams and some bad teams too, you got to get it. You got to get a win on the win column. So it helps. It helps that Nabers looks very good. They will have an interesting task going to next week against a team that they're playing, but it's a good win, and it's a win that you can't really take for granted, even though
No.
I think Deshaun Watson's awful, but um, like you said, you could have won last week, you didn't. Maybe this
Yeah, it
game could have
hurts.
gone south too at some different points during the game, but it didn't. So baby steps for a team that's trying to move forward over the last 5 years that have been difficult. Besides a few years ago when you made the playoffs, so. Yeah, I think you're happy. I think the defense looked very good. Offense 2 weeks in a row where it looked uh maybe average, a
Competent.
little above average, maybe which I think is a win for the Giants because I don't think they've had much going for them offensively within the last 20 weeks of football, more or less. So yeah, it's baby steps, but it's something, and it's a way it's tough to go on the road and win in the NFL. Period. So credit there too.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you this. The Giants 2 straight weeks put up 3 touchdowns. Could have put up 4, except smart play
Right.
move by Devin
Smart by
Singletary,
Singletary, yes.
taking the knee on the 1 yard line.
Yep.
Although my girlfriend wasn't happy about that because she has Singletary on her fantasy team, which me too, and it could have helped me.
Unfortunate. Smart play though.
Smart play.
From an actual football fan though, and for
Yeah.
maybe if the Giants can make, I don't know, this is a long shot, but if they become good in the near future and they have guys making those plays to end games, that's an underrated little not stat but thing to have on your team going. Like you want guys like that. You want it makes a difference for sure too. Staying in bounds in those plays, doing that stuff. So yeah, it stinks for fantasy people, but going forward
And for bettors of the over, because I'm pretty sure that was right on the line
too.
there. But
Yeah,
but although that's a smart play, Devin Singletary has to stop eating popcorn at halftime because this is the second week in the row where the Giants are driving, coming out of the half with a lead, and Devin Singletary fumbles the ball, which I guess on his career, like he's a fumblesome player, and I love him. And I've actually been very impressed with how efficient he's been. I mean, 16 carries for 65 yards, and that was with the Giants and Brian Daboll actually didn't go as conservative in the second half, despite our lead. And we were taking shots, but they were starting to kind of shut down the run regardless. But then as a check down back, he was 4 catches for 43 yards, so over 100 yards on the day. That looked great. And let's talk about resiliency, because that's what Brian Daboll was talking about, resiliency. The opening drive, Eric, the second week in a row, too. This is like deja vu between the Devin Singletary fumble to start the second half and then an opening kickoff snafu where Austin Eckler got the touchdown last week and they called it back. This week, Eric Gray fumbles the ball, and then first play, Deshaun Watson draped in Deontay Banks. Amari Cooper makes an awesome touchdown catch. First play. And that's something that I think is probably one of the biggest negatives that stood out, is that Deontay Banks, even though he's great in coverage and he's sticky and he can cover, like the same thing happened in the Vikings game. He's all over Justin Jefferson. He doesn't get his head around. He can't make a play on the ball. And with these number one receivers that are good at making these 50-50 balls, even when they're in tight coverage, they have it. And like next week against CeeDee Lamb, he's going to have to maybe, I don't know, turn your head. Look for the eyes. That's what my football coach said. When you see their eyes light up, you stick up your hands, you turn around, you try to make a play on the ball.
It's a good point. I will say Amari Cooper, as we know, is a very, very great receiver, just like CeeDee Lamb, just like those guys. So maybe in ways you learn about like Banks as a cornerback, if he isn't able to like maybe just goes down to CB2 or whatever.
That's what I'm saying. He's playing like a great CB2 because if you can cover their second best guy like that, and like they're not going to go to him, you're going to eliminate that second best guy. But just like we see with the Giants and Malik Nabers, and Daniel Jones is getting a lot riskier. He doesn't care if Malik is double covered. If he can get the ball to a place where only Malik can get it, Malik's going to come down with that play, or like he did in this game where Daniel Jones probably shouldn't have thrown the ball, and this was Brian Daboll's favorite play, where Malik Nabers knocks it out of the hands of a defender and saves an interception, which essentially saved our game. But Malik Nabers is just unreal. I think he's 5th right now in yards out of all the wide receivers. I don't know. I haven't really checked after those Monday night games. I think he's first or second in receptions. He's like top 3 in yak. I think he's tied for first with touchdowns, with 3 touchdowns. He's on pace for 17 touchdowns. I think that's a stupid sack. But, because if he gets a touchdown the first 3 games, that's not always going to happen. But it's awesome to see. And like, dude, that I don't know if you saw the touchdown catch where he makes that acrobatic catch and he gets that toe tapped right before the hand. Oh, just beautiful, 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 beautiful. And then the defense, man. Like, I know the Browns, like, we have to be real here, but like they performed excellent. Our front performed excellent. They made up for our inefficiencies in our secondary, which is what we said, because our secondary was always weak going into the year. But we got Brian Burns now to help with Dexter Lawrence. Kayvon's supposed to take a step up. Kayvon actually saw less snaps, and he was replaced with Azeez Ojulari, and Azeez Ojulari was also taking snaps for Brian Burns at times. But Azeez, man, stepped up. Azeez, that player that we thought we drafted in the second round, seems to be, he had some tackles for loss last week, some QB hits, some pressures last week. This week, again, tackles for loss, got a nice sack. He's playing well. But that our front did really great against, granted, a pretty just depleted Browns offensive line. They're starting right tackle Jack Conklin. Jedrick Wills went down, so they're dealing with stuff. I think even Wyatt Teller, their guard, dealt with some injuries. But you got to take advantage of that. And dude, Dexter Lawrence, man, he's putting up. If the Giants can win some games and he keeps this up, like, he's having his Defensive Player of the Year type of season. I mean, he had the 2 sacks, the QB hit. Brian Burns finally came alive. That strip sack was awesome. And then Elijah Chapman, like the undrafted, like, didn't even get signed as a priority UDFA. He tried out for camp, and we fell in love with him. The Seahawks said he's too short. We said, we don't care. He's getting after the passer. He's a beautiful pass rusher, dude. That sack that he had was awesome. He recovered the fumble that Brian Burns forced. Like, Dexter Lawrence loves him. But the difference between this monstering sexy Dexy and then this like 5'11" Elijah Chapman, who's just like this quick little, I love it. I love it. And he kind of remember how I was like raving about Brandon Dorlus in the draft, the guy out of Oregon who's a little bit smaller of a defensive tackle. I mean, he's not Brandon Dorlus, but he kind of has that same pass rushing specialty, the speed, the smaller stature.
Maybe you give Nolan Smith some advice.
Hey.
Sounds like the same kind of player. Both small, but one gets to the quarterback and one doesn't.
Yeah. Well, he also has. I think Sexy Dex literally took him under his wing because I think he can fit underneath Sexy Dex's wing. But it's fun, man. It's fun.
Yeah, I guess it's a little unfortunate it's funny now that we're looking at the Browns and what they are, because week 1 Dallas goes in, there stomps on them, and people go, "Oh wow, that's a great win for Dallas." And if you're the Giants, if you're playing them week 1, is it the same outcome? Maybe, maybe not. But I think seeing the Browns just not be that good of a team, maybe that helps the Giants go in there and say, "Hey, we can win this game." It's it's on the road, but the quarterback's awful. They don't have their start. Chubb's still hurt. They have Amari. Their defense, okay, but like, I don't know. Their secondary, like, I like their secondary. I like guys like
they have Emerson, big names. Yeah,
Newsome and
Denzel Ward.
But like
Grant Delpit too. Like, they have.
I don't know. I thought names. Daniel Jones threw pretty well against them, but regardless, it's interesting to see how like teams I think have more faith going up against the Browns, and maybe the Giants have the same mindset, and it worked. So,
well, I'll tell you what our mindset was, because Jason Pinnock said it. The new mindset for the team is fuck it. That's how that's how we were so resilient after that opening play. Because honestly, there's Giants teams that would be defeated. Like, what the hell?
No, that might not
Jason
be a.
Pinnock's like, hey guys, just fuck it. Let's just win. And
that might not be a bad mindset, honestly, for this team.
Especially going up against the Cowboys, where I feel like last season, week 1, dude, like, we just got punched in the mouth. The blocked field goal, like, we're going to need that mentality just in case the Cowboys come out swinging, who are hungry right now, as hungry as they've probably ever been, being
We'll
one
get
and two,
into that
making
later,
it as
but
far
I
as they
think
are. Yeah.
it always seems like with the Eagles, Dallas, we always split with them, home and home, whatever. And it just seems like lately with you guys in Dallas, they just clobber you both times, and it's not like a competition, more or less. Like something
Mhm.
depends on the number, but I think this year might be a little different, but just because Dallas can't run, Dallas can't defend, they're so bad. We'll get into that too, of course. But
Yeah.
yeah,
No, no,
yeah,
no. Trust me, I'm dying to. it's
yeah,
it's man. But it's the first victory where like last week I felt good. Like the Giants look watchable. Not just
yep.
watchable, but like exciting to see Malik Nabers go off. Like I said, the Devin Singletary fumble thing I'm a little worried about, but I think he's performed better than expectations thus far this season. Like I feel like he's been a really efficient back. Tyrone Tracy finally started getting some of the mix in, and I'll tell
Yeah, he
you
got
what,
like
like
5 or 6 touches out of the
yeah, yeah,
backfield.
yeah, yeah, and he looked good. I mean, he had 2 catches, ran the ball 5 times for 4.6 yards per carry. Like he looked good, and I think maybe this next game is where we start unleashing him a little more, especially because the Singletary fumbles, man, especially against a feisty, hungry Dallas team. I think they might try to take advantage of that, and
Mix it
maybe
up
this
a
is
little
where
bit.
we mix in like see some things that we haven't seen out of Tyrone Tracy, maybe some more routes out of the backfield. I would love to see that. Meanwhile,
Unless,
Wandale Robinson. Oh yeah, no. Continue.
oh, I was just gonna say, unless Singletary is very, very hot, you can take
Yeah.
carries away from him too during a game and not like lose that much. Obviously, he'll get the
Oh
most
no.
carries in the as the premier back, but it's not like
Yeah.
if he's hot, like really hot, like give him the rock, but like otherwise, you're okay.
Yeah, and we'll get into that because this is like I think if you can take advantage of it, take advantage of it. I love Brian Dable's play calling too. Like I said, he was aggressive in the second half.
Yeah,
Unfortunately, we kind of stalled out in the second half. That drive where Singletary fumbled it was another drive where I feel like we were getting going and things were
yeah.
happening. But
It's what
he
happens when you
took
put. It's what
yeah.
happens when you put in good work early. Honestly,
Yeah, and like I didn't feel scared for my life because like the defense was still doing their thing. I was able to like kind of enjoy the second half.
well,
If
Sean,
it like yeah,
what do you think? What do you think was the biggest reason for the turnaround the last 2 weeks with this Giants team overall? Play calling, just offense executing. What is the? I just want one reason too. It could be anything. It could be defensively, anything.
I think Malik Nabers honestly was the catalyst. I think that
Yeah,
Malik Nabers allows the rest of the offense to have more breathing room. Like it
have a
makes the offense
playmaker.
more
Yeah,
multiple. And then you also like Wandale has been getting open underneath, and his yak is awesome. Like I
yeah,
think he has one of the lower depth of targets or the most targets between like 1 and 9 yards, but he's able to turn those into first downs.
sure.
And then I mean that because the defense last week I thought was a little stale. Like yes, it was prevent, and we kept Jayden Daniels, who put up 38 points on the Bengals defense, from scoring a single touchdown. So
Yes,
honestly, I think like give us a little bit more credit. But I'd say this week one of the reasons is Shane Bowen actually like played to the weaknesses of the Browns and took advantage of that, which is something that I think we have to do too against the Cowboys moving forward. Is I want to see more game planning, not just have these simple defenses. You could tell these like drawn up blitzes, like Jason Pinnock, I think has like 3 blitzes on the or 3 sacks on the year coming out of the safety position, maybe more. And then Micah McFadden, he keeps designing up those blitzes, and even on that Elijah Chapman sack, you saw that they had Bobby Okereke rushing too. He was just a hair behind. But I love that. But I think Malik Nabers has just opened up this offense. It's
yeah.
just, and people have to compensate for him. There aren't really that many like Darius Slayton. He had a drop. Jalen Hyatt, we did take a shot to you downfield. I think he still only had like 5 or 6 snaps. I guess he requested a trade that's kind of come to light, but that's just him frustrated. And to be honest, Jalen Hyatt, like you're still kind of just a one-trick pony, man.
He
And
seems
like,
very limited.
and if we put you out there for these streak plays, which I think we still should, and design them up, like
Hmm.
people are going to know what we're doing when you're out there. But I think we could still use that as a plus. But yeah, I think this turnaround is essentially Malik Nabers, and I even saw ESPN said it was not an overreaction that Malik Nabers might save Daniel Jones's career. And it's early,
Yeah.
but okay, so after week 1, everybody was calling for Daniel Jones' head. He's cooked. He's awful. He looked god awful. Guess what? Brock Purdy didn't look great against Brian Flores' defense, who might be the best defense in the NFL this year with like not superstar names. And then CJ Stroud, who everybody was thinking could be his MVP year. Everybody's crowning him as like the next best thing at quarterback. Looked
Yeah.
awful against Brian Flores too. So you're kind of like correcting, like 3 weeks in, you're kind of doing that math. Like, are the Saints really that good, or is it just or are the Cowboys really that bad?
Right.
Because I mean, like, especially because like look what the Eagles did compared to like, yeah, the Saints marched down on the Panthers and marched up on the Cowboys, whose defense kind of looks like shit. So it's like, and then the Giants can't score a touchdown against the Vikings, but guess what? Neither can the Texans and CJ Stroud, who I think have one of the best offensive on papers, one of the best offensive minds, quote unquote, with Bobby Slowick. Everybody loves him. Yeah. Like, so I think you're starting to correct all these narratives, but yeah, just a good game. Like, defense, 8 sacks, beautiful. Offense, Malik Nabers is making the case for Rookie of the Year, making the case to be a top 5 wide receiver in this league, to be honest with you. I mean, all the
8
stats.
sacks.
What? Big stats?
Wow.
8 sacks, dude. Oh, yeah.
That's,
we were eating. And
yeah,
Dak's got 2 of those, dude. Yeah.
That's not good for that liner, Deshaun. Jeez.
Well, that's the thing, dude. And like they didn't even have any time to throw. Like Deshaun was even trying to get around, but like we were just swarming them. It was beautiful to see. Beautiful to see. And there was really no production out of their. I mean, Jordan Akins, 4 catches, those were all check downs. Jerry Jeudy, 4 catches, those were all essentially check downs. Yeah, I mean it was all Amari Cooper, which was unfortunate that it was all Amari Cooper with Deontay Banks on him, like I said. But that's I like you said, I and what I was thinking during the game, like he would be a great CB2. I think we need a Dory to step up next week. Hopefully he's healthy. Yeah. But and hopefully Drew Phillips is healthy. Cordell Flott actually didn't play as awful as he has played. But then again, like when you have your front 4 and your linebackers too being successful on these blitzes, it kind of makes up for the inefficiencies in the secondary. So
yes.
But yeah, Malik Nabers to the moon. Book it, dude. Anything else you want to talk about? Because you know me, I could keep going. Anything else you want to bring up from this Giants game before we move on?
No, more about the matchup with Dallas next week.
Yeah, I think that's my mind's already there, dude. Listen, I switched shifts with somebody because I was like, I want to watch every second of this game. We could lose in dramatic fashion, but also like if we win, I want to be there for every second soaking it up because it's been a while and this looks like one of the most beatable Cowboys teams. I'm not going to say anything because if there's any Cowboys fans watching, you know, like we could get utterly embarrassed. That seems how it goes, but you never know. I have hope now. I have hope. All right. So the Philadelphia Eagles go down to New Orleans and they beat the Saints 15-12 despite being scoreless through the first 3 quarters.
Yeah.
What's up with that? All right. Jeremy, tell me about this game.
Well, it's also not good because most of our salary cap is directed towards our offense, which I like. But a game that the Eagles probably could have lost easily, could have showed up probably. They willed their way in New Orleans. I think that I don't know about you. I think that I go into the game. I didn't think the Saints were as good as what they showed the last 2 weeks. But alas, they still scored around 90 points. And the offense was buzzing, and they were making plays defensively. So you have to go in there a little lightly. Yeah, Jalen was a turnover machine to start the game. Interception in the red zone can't happen. Happens too often. Also,
in the red zone too. Like often, I feel like. I think is it true? I think he leads the league in turnovers since last year. Going into this year.
I would imagine so. Yeah, especially with,
between the fumbles too.
Especially with the 3 weeks we've seen so far. Yeah. Bad fumble where it was careless. That looked like Carson Wentz's fumble. Coaching, worst coaching I've ever seen from a head coach. Actually, I think bad decisions not to kick to go for it. The plays where we go for it on fourth down, dumb plays. Then when we do kick, I think in the fourth quarter, third quarter, it's a 60-yarder, and it didn't really make sense to kick. You could have just punted for field position. But I think, fourth quarter, coaching was off. So with all that, they still mustered out 15 points in the fourth quarter. They had they have a little player. I think his name is Saquon Barkley, who broke out a 65-yard run. And that's something actually, joking aside, that's something that I was looking for. Looking for him to break one. He had a few. Yes, the honorary Saquon Uncle head. And he broke a 65-yarder, which they needed. You sort of wanted to see that. That gave the team more life, of course. And then they're down 12-7. They have a little under route with Goddard. And believe it or not, the Eagles offense schemed it up where three players on the Saints ran into each other. And then Goddard took it for, I think, 61 yards to the 4-yard line. Next play is a touchdown. The least athletic player on this Eagles team, Reed Blankenship, who jumps in front of several passes, jumped in front of another to end the game. They didn't play great. They didn't play good. It is a great win, though. They went on the road against, I think, a good Saints team. It's tough to play in New Orleans, period. It's a tough travel game, too, I think, going southwest like that. It's a game we easily could have seen them losing because they just didn't care for scoring for the first 45 minutes. The coaching was awful. QB play first half was awful. They didn't run the ball enough. I think it took 3 tries for Saquon to run the ball, which is a pattern we've seen from last year too. A lot of injuries. A.J. Brown, of course, didn't score. Lane Johnson out for the game.
Devonta Smith.
Devonta Smith decapitated. I want that guy in jail. Who else? Who was the guard? Who was the guard? Wasn't Landon. It was
Mekhi Becton?
Yes, Becton. Jeez. Out for the game with a finger injury, so he should be good. But it looked like the entire right side of the offense was backups, and Fred Johnson goes in and tackle, plays well. Tyler Steen at a right guard plays well. Jalen stayed in the pocket the second half and trusted them. And that's, I think, his best quality of what he did. He just, he played his game, stood tall, which was great, made some plays. I think it was nice that they had some breakout plays from Goddard and Saquon. But it's always a tale of two cities with this team, two halves. It's always one
Center City and Fishtown.
Yeah. And we're in like Fishtown. We're in Kensington too much with this team, and the offense is too good for that. There's even with AJ not playing, like there's just so much talent on this team. But like I said, we've seen the game go the other way last week against Atlanta, so I'm not going to be too upset. Got to fix some things. I think that. You definitely punctured the Saints a little bit because I think everybody thought they were one of the better teams. I think things changed a little bit. You sort of realized Derek Carr. But it was great defense. I'll be honest. I'm not saying this. Maybe I'm a little biased. I think that was probably one of the best or top 3 defensive efforts we've seen this year in the NFL, period. It was that good.
Well, against a red-hot Saints team. Played against,
which I think holds a lot of weight. Which I think will hold a lot of weight too. I saw a stat that said Jalen Carter impacted 18 plays. It was the best game I've ever seen. Jordan Davis.
Yeah, he was a freak.
Jordan Davis got in there. Everybody, they got pressure. It helps because they had 5 men up front, which great move by Fangio against the Saints going into the game. It kind of pisses me off because it's like you have this great game plan against the Saints, and then you chalked up garbage against Atlanta. Whatever you did with the Packers have a really good offense. Jordan Love was playing. You sort of understand that you can give up some yards and points there. It's like Atlanta, they do have some playmakers, but like, how do you go from that to New Orleans. I won't complain, but
Well,
uh,
I think that Vic Fangio is also. I feel like he has a more complex defense, so I think it takes, especially some like you have some vets, but you also have a lot of younger players on this, especially on the
well,
defensive
that was the
line.
thing. It's a good point too, because part of me was thinking after Atlanta, it's like maybe the defense is just too young. Like, can you imagine that? Like, you want to get younger in the NFL for speed and everything. And it's like maybe they're just too young, where they're not smart enough and not adjusted and not ready. And obviously, I think that was a bit of an overreaction. Um, Bryce Huff snaps cut in half. I think he only had like 15 snaps or whatever. That seemed to
Mhm.
work well. Um, Although I think Nolan Smith got more snaps, but there was just
You're not a
pressure.
fan, huh? Not a fan of
Coverage,
Nolan
cover.
Smith.
I like Nolan Smith. I just think that he's got to get to the quarterback. He might just be too small. That's the only thing. And he only has one move, and it's just speed. But secondary was great. I'm surprised the Saints had a lot of success starting downfield early on. They kind of abandoned that throughout the game, which I didn't understand completely.
Yeah, me neither, dude. Especially because I played Rashid Shaheed this week,
Yeah.
dude, and was able to sneak out a couple. But like Rashid Shaheed, who is like a superstar the past 2
Oh,
weeks,
yeah.
like unstoppable, no
Nice.
catches, nothing, shut down.
Quinion shut him down, which was nice. But even the middle of the field, I think that's where the Eagles have trouble in zones, like around the middle of the field. Sidelines have been great. Quinion shut everybody down. Slay was great on Sunday as well in coverage. Um, it was what a defensive effort by this team. I mean, it's a game too where like the reason they won is because they were kept in it for uh, 57 minutes because of the defense. If the
Yeah,
defense gives up a few field goals here, a touchdown there, they still would have played a great game, but you might lose because
yeah.
that might have been too much. So, just a wild game. Coaching has to get better. Sirianni doubles down in every press conference the week after on just bad decisions and says they're good. Um,
Yeah, I don't love that.
and he just compensates you like every dumb decision was like it was because he was trying to correct his previous dumb decision. So it was like trying to overcompensate. I
Mhm.
don't know what you do about him. That's his only job too. He's a CEO coach. He doesn't call the offense or whatever. Unless it's a really bad play and then he takes ownership of the offense, which I do uh, admire in him. He takes the blame when it might not be his call. So props there. I think that's you don't see that often, but it's a team that just shoots himself in the foot every week, and a lot of times they come out with wins. But we saw last year 10-1 to start off the year. It's impressive, but it wasn't a true 10-1 team. Um, but you had to come out of New Orleans with the win. That's what they did. But geez, it's not easy with this team.
No, no, it is not. But do you win this game without Saquon Barkley?
No, I don't think
Yeah,
we would. I don't think we would. We don't win game one without Saquon Barkley.
yeah, I don't think so, man.
We don't win.
Especially
We don't win.
with
We don't come close to winning game two without Saquon. If we won game two, if we beat Atlanta, we wouldn't have beat it without Saquon.
yeah, and then Saquon has to go after the game and like tweet at Malik Nabers like he is him. You guys are gonna hate this, but he's like that. I'm like, oh, sick, Saquon. Everybody's looking for your input on the New York Football Giants playmakers, dude.
I actually love that. If it seems to bother Giants fans, I love that.
No, I actually saw a lot of Giants fans being like, you know what? It's hard to hate him. I think that was
Yeah.
because we won. If we lost and he said that, then you know would have been touchy. But no, I mean that's what Saquon did in New York too. Is like there are certain games
Yeah.
where they just put it on his back, and maybe he didn't have as many explosives for us, and I think
Right.
he's able to do that with a better O line when
I
you
was I
guys.
was gonna say I
Yeah,
hate to say it, but just it helps that the Eagles have a top line too, but you just put better guys in front who can block. It like they do a good job, but like his vision is wild.
yeah.
There's nothing in front, and he'll still find a hole and punch through. So yeah,
Those thighs, thick
I think
thighs
it's
save lives. I guess I don't. That's yeah.
I just
I
think
don't
it's a
know, man.
shame that the Giants never put guys in front of him that could have excelled his
Yeah,
game.
pretty garbage.
But
It's kind of unfortunate that now that we finally have a decent O line, Saquon's gone.
yes,
You
yeah.
know, that's
no doubt. But he's been yeah, they'd be 0-3 without him. I'm not kidding when I say that.
Yeah. Well, hey, I mean, and you want to know what's funny too is that you see DeAndre Swift behind the Bears O line, and he
Yep.
sucks. I think he's
Yep.
averaging like 2 yards a carry, and he was
Right.
like a superstar for you guys last year. And I think,
Yes.
I mean, I think
He-
Howie's cheating the system. Like you see, everybody now is saying like the passing game in the NFL has gone down. Like we haven't seen like any 300-yard passers. Andy Dalton's the first 300-yard, 3-touchdown throw passer. I think maybe Josh Allen might have beat that last night, But yeah, like you're seeing a lot less 300-yard games, a lot less. It's become like almost back to a running league, at least to start.
I was going to say, I've been thinking about this the last few days with the success Saquon has had, Josh Jacobs too, Derrick Henry too.
Yeah,
I think the running back market is going to explode, and I think people are going to pay for running backs going forward. Maybe that changes if things happen and we see the same trends with injuries and whatnot. I think you have to run the ball in the NFL, Sean. As you know, we see a team that not only can't, has zero legitimate options, and they're losing games but we'll get into the Cowboys. And you have to run the ball, and the good teams want really good runners. There is a thing about the Super Bowl how like they don't have great, but I think it's changing a little bit. How drastic it is, I don't know. I think for agency it's going to explode in running backs in terms of money going forward until there's a reason for it to change. So I think you're right about the running back thing. Yep.
I also think that there's a lot of really good running backs coming into this draft next year, which I think will change things, especially with this being a slow running back draft. Like, I mean, who's the best rookie running back this year? There's no one of note. You can't say any. I mean, Jonathan Brooks is still injured.
Brooks is hurt. Yeah.
But Trey Benson hasn't been getting any run. Blake Corum hasn't been getting any run. Isaac Gerendo, too, who I loved. I thought maybe with Christian McCaffrey down, he would split more carries but Jordan Mason is the guy over there.
Okay.
Honestly, I think Tyrone Tracy is probably up there in leading yards for rookie running backs right now. And I think he probably only has like 75 tops.
Right.
So, but yeah, no, it's definitely becoming more of a running league, and I'm glad that we have Motor Singletary, even though I didn't love this signing at the time. And I remember talking to my friend on the Texans because I was like, I think Saquon's going to go to you, and we're going to end up with Devin Singletary. Unfortunately, that didn't happen. He went to you.
It was close. He almost went to Houston.
Yeah, I wish, man, that I could actually root for him. But yeah, I don't know. I think, and I think that the Cowboys are learning that. Anything else you want to say about the Eagles before we get to America's game of the week?
Probably, but it just nothing. I think I got just great job, Chief. I mean, my God, I can't believe. Let's try to emulate that more going forward because you just have to.
So Sirianni's still on the hot seat. What are the chances that you guys have if you guys drop below 500 mid-season, you think you move on from Sirianni and you elevate Vic Fangio?
If they would elevate anybody, it would be Kellen Moore, I believe.
You think so? That way Vic Fangio can focus?
If they fire Sirianni, it'll go to Kellen Moore. But how deep in the season are we? What week are we?
Like, say if you guys are like 6 and 9, so I guess like week 15,
and not out of playoff contention.
Yeah,
6 and 9. Yeah, probably. Yeah, and he's lucky too because like if they would have lost that game, he would have been on the hot seat. Right now, he's on like he's on the hot seat, but like it's amazing what winning can do and how people forget about a lot of things they shouldn't because it's 2 bad weeks in a row of his coaching. And it's specific plays and stuff that in decisions he's made that have literally almost cost some games. Well, I guess they did week 2, but and that wasn't the case last year either. He wasn't like costing them games specifically off of a few calls. He was just like collapsed at the end. But he's got to pick that up. And he's really like if they would have lost, he would have been sports radio would have been on fire. He is lucky that he won because it's not as much heat on him right now as it probably
Yeah,
should be.
I feel like most of Philadelphia wanted to fire him right before that fourth quarter, and I
Yes,
think yeah,
I said after the Atlanta game, be done with you. And then you're watching the first 3 quarters of the Saints. You're like, wow, this is rock bottom.
yeah. All right, but let's move on to a game that looks a lot closer than it was. The
Don't be fooled, America.
Baltimore Ravens hop into Jerry World, and once again, the Cowboys are embarrassed at home. The Cowboys win 28-25, but that was because of
Ravens.
a late resurgence of the Cowboys when they really didn't have any real chance of winning the game.
And
Going into that fourth quarter, it was 28-6.
And that's what the Cowboys do, Sean. They are the best garbage team franchise in professional sports. They will be down 30 in the fourth. They will score 29. They will lose every time. It's who they are. It's honestly not that respectable because of how bad they are the first 45 minutes, and then you show fight at the end every time. Just who they are, and again, it results in a loss.
Yeah, the Cowboys. It's the same old story. Just like in their loss last week, all of the worries and fears about this team going into the season. Their run defense sucks. They can't run the ball. Guess what? It was exploited once again. And Derrick Henry, who Jerry Jones said he couldn't afford him, ran all over you for 151 yards and 2 touchdowns. And this is with Lamar Jackson throwing for under 200 yards. Their leading receiver is Nelson Aguilar. He can't catch anything. With 1 catch for 56 yards.
Yes.
Like, that just shows, like, your run. The Cowboys are getting embarrassed. And then Micah Parsons is, like, talking crap on his podcast about C.J. Gardner-Johnson. I'm like, okay, how would you try to win some games before you start criticizing somebody who's actually backing up their talk? Yeah, dude, I saw Kalen Carson get stiff-armed to oblivion by Derrick Henry. It was beautiful. Yep. Kyle Van Noy was also great for the Ravens with those 2 sacks, tackle for loss. He looked great. Yeah, the Cowboys and Dak put up crazy numbers, but like you said, it's garbage. You know,
yeah,
like he put up 380 yards and tossed for 2 touchdowns. But CeeDee Lamb was pissed at him. CeeDee Lamb also dropped a couple balls too. But I think I said this last week. Like, CeeDee Lamb was such a big catalyst. Just like I was saying, Malik Nabers is a catalyst for the Giants. CeeDee Lamb is your superstar. You have no run game. Like, CeeDee Lamb was getting like 10 catches a game last year, and he was able to use that yak. A recipe with 4 catches for 67 yards, and yeah, he got the ball to Turpin and Tolbert and Ferguson, but like, you have to let your playmaker be your playmaker, and I don't know. I don't think that. And CeeDee Lamb looked pissed. CeeDee Lamb got pretty angry at Dak Prescott, and it isn't the first time. So, Jeremy, what are your thoughts on this?
Just standard, regular Dallas Cowboys. They don't do anything in the offseason. They pay their best player, CeeDee Lamb, way too late in the offseason. They extend their quarterback to a big deal an hour before week 1 for their game or whatever. You just don't get surprised at these results because of with the way they make decisions. They don't have a running back. They don't have a backup running back. They ran the ball 10, 15, 16 times for 51 yards maybe.
Yeah.
They can't run. There's no one you could be like, oh, Ezekiel Elliott, let's start him. No, that doesn't exist. Rico Dowdle, let's start him. No.
Dude, the whole Rico Dowdle, he's gonna finally emerge in like year 4 of being like a 3rd string running back. No, like,
it's just not good.
No.
Deuce Vaughn, not good. I never understood their plan going to the season with that running back room. I've said before, it is the worst running back room I've ever seen, including Pop Warner, including uh, football for people flag football teams. It's just the worst ever. And
Yeah.
I'm just not surprised. It also doesn't help that their defense is awful. They can't stop
Mhm.
the run. Gave up 6 yards per carry for Derrick Henry. Um, just embarrassing. I mean, it's a team that like everything's I think finally hitting the fan. And I'll be honest too. Even years where they're not like great, they still can together a 10, 11 win, 10-win season because they just have so much talent.
Yeah.
I don't know. This might be the year where it's just like everything's hitting the fan with them.
Well, this is the thing too. It's not like they don't have any excuses injury wise either. I mean, like, yeah,
Right?
Deron Bland isn't there. Deron Bland, who was just a surprise last season. But I mean, Kalen Carson, it's hard for a 5th-round rookie to step up. I feel like he's been struggling quite a bit. Um, and then you know, Tyler Guyton, like he's not been terrible, but he's not what you've been known as a stout, strong offensive line. So you don't have running backs, and then you also don't have that killer offensive line that would make up for your ineptitude at running back
Yeah.
that you used to have. I saw stats that Zach Martin is like worst year yet blocking wise, run blocking, pass blocking. So he's on the
Yeah.
decline. That's not good to see. Tyler Smith is still doing great, and actually Cooper Beebe has, even though like it doesn't look amazing, he still has played pretty well for a center, a rookie
Yeah.
center who's never played center. So
Yeah.
that's a plus, I guess. Jake Ferguson came back and made some noise.
Yeah.
I think maybe it's Dalvin Cook time. I feel like probably the Cowboys fans want that too. I mean, after
Yikes.
seeing all this, like, I mean, Dalvin Cook might be cooked, but so is everybody else in that running
Yeah.
back room. So, like, maybe Dalvin Cook with something to prove. Maybe we see him on Thursday night, but they also, I understand they can't run the ball, but they also just abandoned the run. And I get it. They were down
Yeah.
big
That's what happens
early.
when you can't run the ball. Yep.
Yeah. But like, if they were able to do that earlier, maybe that would have mitigated the
Yeah.
Ravens from just jumping up to such an early lead so quickly. Like that's, yeah.
Yeah. You're not wrong with like maybe you should just run the ball out early too, kill clock, not give Baltimore time to score some many points. Maybe that's something they could do. But they're just not a good team. And all joking aside, Dak, for when Dak is at his best, he has a running back. He has a legit person who can help him out. It works both ways. It's not even just to have a running back so you can run the ball. It's also to help the quarterback out too, so he doesn't have to
Yeah.
make every play. Doesn't have to throw it 50, 55 times like he did. How many times did he throw?
51. Yeah.
It's a joke.
Yeah.
This team is just a joke. It's hilarious, but they
It's good to see.
don't help Dak out when they should, and yeah, just you see how these results happen. You see how they get blown out going into the fourth quarter, 28-6, and teams are so like teams that do it too. That like just clobber them the first 45 minutes. They all just take their pedal off because they go, this team stinks. It's not fun beating them up. We're just gonna we're going into next week already. So
I mean, that's what it seems like they did. They just kept running the hell out of the ball and
yes,
and dude, Mozzie Smith, who's supposed to be 2 years removed from being the first round pick for the Cowboys, there was plays where he was like pushed back 15 yards off the line
oh
of
yeah,
scrimmage, like, just getting manhandled. And
glorified
Oseo
nose
Odigizua, nothing. I saw PFF. I believe that they don't have a single defensive tackle with a grade over 30 in run defense. That's how abysmal
yeah,
they are.
yeah, that doesn't.
Yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't surprise me. Look at the numbers.
Yeah. No, it's not amazing. Yeah.
And the way
Mike
they lost,
Zimmer.
too, it was so great. They're building up noise. It's like third down, and like you have to prevent them from getting a first down, or maybe it was second.
Yeah.
It was third, and Lamar made a throw on first. made like a 15-yard throw to get the first on Diggs. And then they do the fake to Henry. They thought they had Henry wrapped up, and Lamar takes it up the middle for a first down out of the game. Poetic, just a Dallas thing. You saw the Dallas fan when the TV showed him with that big oversized hat down 28-6. It's just glorious. It's just who they are. It's always something with them.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, Mike McCarthy should be on the hot seat, I think. But you know how Jerry likes to hold on to.
Fired years ago.
Yeah. And, I don't know. I think it was so funny when he lied and said he was doing all these, like, technical, all these math, trying to be precise and cutting edge as a coach, and he was just full of shit. He just came back with the same Mike McCarthy garbage. Yeah, I don't even think Cowboys fans, there's not really even much more to say. They can't run the ball. They can't defend the run.
Yep.
And with that,
I don't think they're amazing. Yeah, I don't even think they're amazing throwing either, just because of like the lack of like maybe Cooks. Like the issue is if Cooks give you 2 for 16, that's Cooks. Like I don't even think like throwing the ball. I don't know.
Jake Ferguson, like I said, Jake Ferguson's solid, but
yes,
they don't really have a wide receiver 2 at all.
Right.
Like, they don't have
And if Cooks is my point is if Cooks is going for 216, I don't think anybody's going to step up behind him. It's like, okay, Turpin might have a play, but like it's more about volume after CD and Ferguson. It's about volume with receivers. And if CD's only giving you 4 catches, it's like, wow. I bet that's got to be an interesting stat. When CD doesn't get I bet he's going to need to give them 8 catches to win games going forward. But I don't know. Maybe that's not the matchup. We'll see.
No. It's true. I mean, especially when you don't have any running backs. Like, you need your superstar player to be more of your – he needs to step up, make up for your deficiencies.
He hasn't been giving you yards, hasn't been giving you catches this year. Talent's definitely there. We've seen it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And, hey, the paycheck's there to back it up. But let's talk about, honestly, one of the most exciting games of this week. Yeah. And I'll tell you what, it makes it fun covering the NFC East when you have somebody exciting like this. We saw Terry McLaurin said it. We saw Jayden Daniels grow up in front of our eyes. On Monday Night Football, the Bengals, who I believe were 5-0 or something on primetime games since 2019. Yes. The Washington Commanders go into Cincinnati and beat the Bengals 38-33, and Jayden Daniels has himself a day. Threw for his first touchdown, threw for 2 touchdowns, and his first touchdown. This is going to be he said it himself. He said this is going to be a real fun trivia question. Who is his first touchdown to, Jeremy?
I didn't watch the first early on. I'm sorry.
That's okay. It was to offensive lineman Trent Scott. it was a big boy touchdown.
Oh,
it was a big boy touchdown.
Right. I don't realize.
But I think the story here is obviously Jayden Daniels. Jayden Daniels, now he is the favorite to win Rookie of the Year. He played like it. Everything that we were talking like how he abandons the pocket early to just scramble. No, he was running around the pocket and he was making deep passes. He wasn't throwing 13 of his passes behind the line of scrimmage like he was against the Giants. He was getting aggressive. He threw a deep ball to Terry McLaurin to set up a touchdown earlier. And then the touchdown that he threw to Terry McLaurin was beautiful in the end zone. I mean, beautiful. It was fun. And he wasn't as efficient on the ground, but I feel like he ran when he needed to. And I feel like also he ran out of sacks. So, yeah, he only averaged 3.2 yards per carry, 12 carries for 39 yards. But he was evading sacks when he was doing that. I would love for him to stay in the pocket, evade the sack, and toss the ball down the field. But if he's just avoiding the sack and he's able to get out of bounds and avoid that contact like he did, I mean, that's a recipe for success for good old Jayden Daniels. And finally, their running backs weren't their leading receivers for once, which is pretty good. And you saw that game plan. Luke McCaffrey had a pretty efficient game. Mm-hmm. Zach Ertz was a good safety blanket. And Terry McLaurin, I feel like, was waiting for this game. I think if there was another game where he wasn't factored in, there might be some noise there. But and they beat Joe Burrow in 3. which everybody loves the Bengals, and the Commanders looked like the better team throughout that game. To be
They
honest, like
did.
from the
Well,
beginning.
I,
Well, yeah,
I will say this. I don't think I'm putting an X on myself, Sean, because all these teams that I'm chirping, the Eagles will
yeah,
eventually play.
yeah,
So I think the Ravens will be a threat because of Lamar. So let the record be straight there. But
yeah,
the Bengals are just not a good team. But nonetheless, Washington was very impressive. Like good for them um, with the way they played um, on the road too. Bengals are not a good team. Their defense sucks. Offensively, I just don't know. It was Jamar got active more, but the run game is like iffy without Mixon. It's just different. Yeah, just weird. But the Jaden, Jaden was accurate as can be. Um, and he's going to have some growing pains going into the season too, even
yeah,
after this game. But it was great to see as an NFL fan, not as an Eagles fan, because I don't root for Washington ever. But
yeah.
uh, as an NFL fan, he made noise and had a great game. So
Yeah. I mean, so 91.3% completion percentage, 141.7 passer rating. I mean, he was near perfect. And then he
yeah,
also was great on the ground. Like I said, he was avoiding sacks, I believe. I mean, did the Bengals behind a pretty questionable offensive line only got 2 sacks on Jayden Daniels. And like I said, that was also a testament to Jayden himself. Um, yeah, the Commanders defense is still like without Jayden Daniels right there stepping up, Jayden Daniels was the whole reason for this win here. I mean, he
oh yeah,
orchestrated the whole thing. He was near perfect.
38
But
points.
but the defense is still very questionable for this Commanders team. And if you told me
Yeah,
that Jamar Chase was going to have his best game of the season yet and go off for 120 yards just like Malik Nabers did last week,
yeah.
I mean, I wouldn't be surprised, you know?
It
Um,
it helps if
yeah,
you're Washington though. If you can be a threat offensively, which I don't think we knew going into the season, just because you lose Curtis Samuel, you lose Jahan
mhm,
Dotson. If you can be decent offensively throughout the year, or decent offensive, yeah, throughout the year, the defensive issues you're not as concerned about because you can stay in some of these games based off the offense, and
yeah.
maybe you just need to play here and there for your defense. So yeah, that's Washington. Yeah,
I mean, hey, if they're, I mean, the Bengals defense, I mean, they had a close game against the Chiefs the week
yes,
prior, and the fact that the Commanders put a better offensive output than the Chiefs did against this Bengals defense is, I think that's the most impressive thing. But yeah, and the Commanders still can't get any sacks. I mean, they had 2 sacks in the game. Um, so yeah, I think it's exciting. It's awesome. It's a great win. A win's a win. They're 2-1. I mean, I think that the Commanders are going to surprise a lot of people this year because of Jayden Daniels. I think he's in a this was his coming out party, and I think now he's comfortable getting the ball downfield, evading pressure. I think all in all, this is a change for Jayden Daniels. But yeah, the defense is still just yeah, their
yeah, we'll
greatest week.
see. I think you always have to pump the brakes with quarterbacks because you think they're going to be great and they're great for a year and then they're bad the second year. So this isn't like it's still so early in Jay Daniels' career, but yeah, This is the first I think probably of many going forward where he'll play strong game. And they
Yeah,
came coming out with the win too, and 2-1 for Washington. It's pretty surprising for what we thought that they would be in the rankings. I think we all thought
yeah.
they'd probably be last in the East.
Well, that's true. But if you told me that the reason why they're winning is because Jayden Daniels
Oh, sure. Yeah,
is
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. They
I mean,
that's
this was in the
it's
realm of
back with the quarterback.
possibility. Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, yeah. I mean, that's the thing, and that's a superstar quarterback. They make up for, you know, your other deficiencies. I mean, just like Andy Dalton and the Panthers, dude. Who would have thought Andy
Yeah.
Dalton is a better quarterback than Bryce Young?
Yeah. Again, with those kind of things, though, it's like it helps to play a bad team in um, Vegas, and even in
Yeah,
changing stuff makes it hard for other teams. But yeah, no doubt. Yep, there's definitely correlation for sure. But yes.
yeah. Anything else you want to get into these Commanders before we get into our fantasy and then the Week 4
No,
previews?
just a pretty balanced game from Washington's offense all around.
Yeah,
They had three guys who contributed to running the ball decently enough to
yeah,
get to 100 yards. And it looks like Zach Ertz could be a nice little better blanket for Daniels in tough situations. And we've seen that before throughout his career. So, yeah.
yeah. I do like. Zach Ertz has definitely been a safety net. And dude, Austin Eckler. I mean, he went out with a concussion, but dude, he had that 62-yard kick return, which looked
Yeah.
awesome. Almost broke that too.
Yeah,
And then that touchdown, that explosive touchdown he had, like he was looking like old Eckler a little bit there,
special
which was
teams might
exciting.
be his thing going forward.
Yeah, I mean, what? Like, I don't know. How much was his contract? Like 5 million, 6 million, 7
Yeah,
million
not too
tops. I think
much.
for somebody who
I
was,
don't even think that
a
much.
year
Yeah.
removed from being like a top 5 running back.
Yeah.
Like it's interesting. But all right, Jeremy, you ready for these fantasy standings?
Yes, let's get to it.
All right, so me and Jeremy did an all NFC East fantasy team where we only drafted players from the NFC East, and it's a best ball. So that means our best quarterback that we drafted plays, our two best running backs, our two best wide receivers, our best tight end, and a flex. And I'll tell you what, man, I don't know why nobody drafted Zach Ertz because the tight end position is already slim. But my team reads as follows. Best quarterback was Jayden Daniels with a 28.06. My running back one was Devin Singletary with an 18.8. Running back two, Austin Eckler with a 12.7. Wide receiver one, Malik Nabers with a 24.2. I have him in all my fantasy leagues, even this one. Wide receiver two is Wan'Dale Robinson with a 9.6. My tight end is Jake Ferguson with a 12.5, and CeeDee Lamb is my flex with an 8.7. Who would have thought? And that leads me to be at a 114.56 total.
Wow.
Jeremy, before I read your scores, do you think you beat me or based on your roster? You have Goddard and Barkley.
Oh, yeah, I cooked you.
Yeah, you did. Yes, you did. You had Dak Prescott with a 29.86. You had
Wow.
Saquon Barkley.
Thanks, Dak.
Saquon Barkley, yeah, dude. That's what happens
That's
when you just
brutal. I
dumps
feel
the
bad.
ball a bunch. Yeah.
I feel bad for you actually about that. I'm not gonna
No,
lie.
I added Dak in last, and I was like, oh, I smoked him this week, and then yeah, dude. When you have three players for over 30 points,
Yep.
it's hard to beat you. Saquon Barkley with a 31.6, which I had to I forgot to get that 2-point conversion. Was your running back one. Running back two was Brian Robinson with 10.2. Wide receiver one, Terry McLaurin with 18. Wide receiver two, Devonta Smith with 11.4. Tight end, Dallas Goedert with an even 22. And your flex, you could have picked De'Ami Brown or Brandon Cooks, who both got you 2.6 points. But hey, still, you win 125.66 to my 114.56.
Wow.
I have to go to work later, and I actually finished all my bourbon last night. So no shot for me today, but I guess I'll take 2 shots next week. Well,
Yes,
maybe one,
I
because
owe one as
you'll take
well.
one.
I
You
owe one
owe
as well.
1 shot too.
And yeah, that's brutal. Putting up 114 in a best ball like this and not winning is thank you, Dak. Thank you for what you did in the fourth, bud.
Yeah. Hey, dude, I think I got like the QB1 though moving forward with Jayden Daniels.
Maybe
It's
looking
passing.
good.
Hey, even Daniel Jones might have put up some numbers against
There
this
you go.
Dallas team. But actually, that's what we're going to get into right now. We are going to preview Week 4, and the Giants and Cowboys have an early turnaround playing Thursday night in MetLife. Keys to this game, Jeremy. Keys to this game, I would say, are run the ball with Devin Singletary, get Malik Nabers the ball,
Mm-hmm.
and rush the passer. Rush the passer, get that pressure, and eliminate CeeDee Lamb. Pretty easy on paper, right? This
Sure.
is one stat that I think is actually pretty cool. Malik Nabers in man coverage this year is the number one graded wide receiver. I think it's like a 93 point something. Guess what
Mm-hmm.
Mike Zimmer runs? Man coverage. He plays press man coverage. So if that's the case, let's take advantage of it with Malik Nabers. Maybe Mike Zimmer tries to mix it up, throw in some different stuff, but as of right now, he's a press man defense. I'm just going to pull up the spread here. Jeremy, what are your thoughts on this game? I gave the keys to the Giants winning. What are the keys to the Cowboys winning? What do you think?
Somehow get reincarcerated. You somehow get Zeke Elliott in his 2016 form. Turn back the clock 8 years with him. You have to get the ball to your best playmaker, CD. You have to get at least 3 players have to get 6 catches, and that's going to be CD. That's going to be Ferguson, and that's probably, I guess, going to be Cooks. If they have 18 plus catches, I think that they're in business. I don't know how you move the ball running it with them, so it's just tough. Defensively, you just have to not let Neighbors kill you, and maybe everything else will shape up. Parsons gets to the quarterback, but you can't have Singletary go loopy on you. But even though your run defense is so bad, maybe it's not the worst matchup with Singletary. You just can't get killed by any of your weaknesses. Your weakness right now is going against Neighbors. Your weakness right now is your run defense. So Singletary, just be competent on both sides of the ball, I think, and have those 3 players get 18 plus catches, I think.
Okay. I mean,
Yeah.
I'll tell you this too. Like Devin Singletary, I would say maybe he's a better running back than Jerome Ford. But I mean, the Cowboys defense does look awful, but they also played against Alvin Kamara, who's having a resurgent year, and Derrick Henry, who are 2 great running backs. I would say Deonte Banks needs to step up. Like he's covered Justin Jefferson so far this year.
Yep.
Got beat by him. Amari Cooper got beat by him. Did a really good job against Terry McLaurin, but still gave up some catches on him. CeeDee Lamb, I think will operate mostly out of the slot. Hopefully we get Drew Phillips back. And honestly, I would trust Drew Phillips on CeeDee Lamb.
Mm-hmm.
Like I would, let him be, raised by fire. I mean, CeeDee Lamb is a top 5 wide receiver in this league still, I think, even though he hasn't performed that way thus far this season. But I would like to see that happen. I want to see Dexter Lawrence eat up Cooper Peavy. I want to see him look like a rookie 3rd-round pick who shouldn't be starting at center. Even though, like I said, he's been playing really well. I think that Kayvon Thibodeau and Brian Burns should be feasting on rookie Tyler Guyton as well. And Andrew Thomas actually had probably one of his worst games against Myles Garrett last week. But, I mean, go figure, Defensive Player of the Year, Myles Garrett. But I want to see him step it up and be back to elite top tackle in the league. Don't let Micah Parsons anywhere near Daniel Jones. I think one of the reasons why Micah Parsons and Tank Lawrence have struggled in the pass rush is because they've had to compensate for all these runs. They've just been getting run on, which, gets them tired, harder to get after the quarterback after you're, trying to defend this run all the time. So I think the Giants need to keep it balanced with Devin Singletary. Like I said, I think this is going to be a Tyrone Tracy game. I think this is where he gets a little bit more factored in, especially against a bad run defense. Run it with Singletary, switch it up with Tracy, and let's get Malik Nabers another 10 catches, 120 yards, 2 touchdowns. That's the way he's been playing. I wouldn't put it past him. And Daniel Jones got bailed out by a roughing the passing call last week, but that interception that he threw against the Browns that got called back, That looked like the same interception he threw in the preseason against the Texans, where he's getting sacked and he just tries to throw the ball away and he throws it to
Do
the
that
defender.
before.
We can't see that. We cannot see that. Trayvon Diggs is thirsty. This Cowboys team is thirsty. I think everybody on this Cowboys team is hungry, and they've dominated the Giants the past 4 or 5 years. So I'm sure they're going to bring their A game, but it's in MetLife. So Giants fans show up and show out.
This is a quarterback to do that to too. That's why, they look at Daniel Jones. That's what they probably think.
You know what I think? Fuck it. Daniel Jones throws a pick six. Jason Pinnock's motto. Daniel Jones just has to come back. And honestly, like that's the thing. Like we got lucky with mistakes against the Browns, and we didn't make really any against the Commanders offensively, besides from those Singletary fumbles. But the Cowboys have been a team that has been able to take advantage of our mistakes. The blocked kick touchdown last year, the Daniel Jones interceptions. It's like if something like that happens, we need to be resilient, and we need to get after Dak Prescott too. Like I think that's a big deal. Just like we did it in our key to success with the Browns, we need the Giants D-line to make up for a lack of secondary. So those are my keys. The spread, Giants are underdogs at home. Go figure. At a plus 4.5 against the Cowboys, and the over-under is set at 44. You know what? I'm going to go Giants with the points. I think Giants are going to win this one. You know what? We could be coming back next week, and the Giants get embarrassed, but this is the team that the Giants could beat. This is probably the weakest Cowboys team we have played since Dak Prescott went down in 2020. I think the Giants feel good after that Browns win. I think you take that momentum, you take that fuck it mentality, and you just stick it to those Cowboys at home, and we turn this season around. Jeremy, what do you think?
I want to take Giants with the points, but I'm not going to. I have Cowboys, and I have Cowboys with the points.
All right, cool. I actually think this might be an over game, though. I think that this might be
okay. I will say, what is it, 4.5?
Yeah,
I do want to take the Giants with the points, honestly, but I don't know. I'll go Cowboys. Cowboys.
All right, good for you. Good for you, buddy. Good for you. Next game on the docket are the Philadelphia Eagles again going to Tampa Bay. This is the second year in a row that you've played the Bucs, and if I believe correctly, last year it was a rainy game. You guys kind of took advantage of Baker Mayfield.
It was a great defensive game from the Eagles. It was great that they controlled the clock throughout the entire game. It was masterful. They probably could have scored more, but it was a great game for them.
All right, so the spread is Eagles minus 2.5, with the Bucs being home dogs. Over under set at 45.5. Keys to success here, Jeremy. What do you think?
Run the ball with Saquon, protect it with Jalen. Have guys healthy, if that makes sense. If Devontae can come back, if AJ can come back, Lane, whatever. Be aggressive on defense and rush the passer and rush the quarterback. You're not going to win in the NFL if you don't put pressure at all, and you can't just sit back. So that's what they did last week, and if they do that, they will win. They will beat the Bucs.
I'm looking at the injury right now because as of last week, Vita Vea and Kalijah Cansey, they're two defensive tackles who are, I'd say, above average, top of the line defensive tackles, were both out. Mm-hmm. It looks like they're still day to day as of right now. So don't know, but if even one of those guys are out, I feel like that's another Saquon Barkley game. I think run it down their throats.
Yep.
As you said, Jalen Hurts just needs to maybe not throw red zone interceptions, maybe not fumble the ball at key times.
It's a top 3 offense right now in yards, maybe even one. It's just finishing drives and not turning it over.
Yeah,
I think they had 470 yards of offense last week against the Saints. It's just wild.
Yeah, and the fact the fact that the Broncos, bottom barrel Broncos, beat the Bucks,
Yeah.
kind of interesting. Kind of interesting to say the least. But I mean, they did beat the Lions, who's everybody's favorite, and their defense, the Lions' defense, has stepped up. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I think the spread at 2.5, that's pretty fair. And I'm leaning Eagles here because I think you guys are going to be able to take advantage. What is the status on Devonta Smith? You know, if that's
They
like a
don't. They don't.
questionable,
They don't know yet. They're
and
still.
AJ Brown's still questionable.
Yeah.
You don't
They
think
don't
he's
know yet.
yeah. Well,
If I would
that's
guess, I
another
would
thing.
think AJ would be out another week and then bye, and then he's back going forward.
Yeah, and I feel like
If I
Devonta
were
Smith got
guessing on
clobbered.
Tuesday,
Yeah. All right, that's fair.
I'll
Honestly,
go. I'll go
yeah,
Eagles. I have Eagles with the points as well. Interest. Yeah, it's still. I think right now, at least, I think that the odds go probably up Eagles' favor a point or so by Sunday, and
yeah,
assuming it would depending on the injury report. But yeah, I'll take the Eagles at the points with what it is at 2.5 right now.
yeah. I will also take the Eagles with the points. I'm gonna go under though. I'll take the Eagles with the points, but I think it's going to be a close game right now with the minus 2.5. I think that
Mhm.
Baker tries to get back on the same page with Mike Evans and Chris Godwin, who have had great years has had a great year minus that last week against the Broncos. But yeah, that was just kind of a sad performance against a Broncos team that's been struggling quite a bit.
Yep,
So
really bad team.
yeah, it's also so early in the there's like these outlier
Yep,
weeks. There's
teams
Baker
trying to
looked
buy
great, but he was
themselves.
against the Commanders, but then they
Yeah.
were resilient against the Lions. So like you really don't know. Yeah. Anything else for this game before we move on to the final game
No, let's
preview?
do it.
All right, the Washington Commanders go into Arizona to take on the Cardinals. It's a Cliff Kingsbury revenge game. And you have two mobile quarterbacks that are both taken in the top two. Kyler Murray being the number 1 overall pick, Jayden Daniels being the number 2 overall pick, obviously. I feel like this is going to be a fun game. The Commanders are 3.5-point underdogs, which being the away team actually isn't too shabby. The over-under is set at 50.5, and I think it's one of the highest overs for the week. That might be the highest over for the week. And I might honestly take it because I think that Kyler Murray and these Cardinals are going to take advantage of this still very questionable Commanders defense. And I think that Cliff Kingsbury is actually going to dial up a lot of stuff against his former team. Obviously, totally different defensive coordinator with Jonathan Gannon over there. But yeah, very curious to see your thoughts on this one, Jeremy.
This is tough because I wish I had more of a sample size on Daniels in the offense.
Mm.
Do they do it 2 weeks in a row? Arizona looks better too, although.
Yeah. I mean, it was a close game against the Lions. Like,
Yes.
and the Cardinals came out hot against the Bills too, and
Yep.
they destroyed the Rams, a very injured Rams team,
Yeah.
granted,
It's in Arizona.
in Arizona.
I'll give it to the Cardinals then.
Yeah, I'm
Out,
not gonna lie, I kind of agree with you there.
outright. What's the spread?
I believe it's 3.5, 3.5. Yeah, Commanders
Yeah,
plus 3.5 over 50.5.
maybe I'd take Washington for the spread. Have it be a field goal. Maybe.
I can see that. I can see
Yeah.
it. I mean, we have to see. I mean, yeah, Jayden Daniels had an awesome coming to the NFL moment, and I don't think he's going to totally turn into a pumpkin. But I don't know. This is a Cardinals team that can be taken advantage of.
Yes.
Definitely be taken advantage of.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, when you had a mobile quarterback like Josh Allen was able to do some work on them. Yeah, you know what? Just because we're covering the Commanders, I will give them the points as well. But I think that we're going to see a lot more out of Kyler Murray and this Cardinals team against the Commanders. I think all the offensive coordinators, when they see the matchup versus the Commanders, are dialing stuff up. They're trying to take advantage of this defense.
Mhm.
I'll go over on this game too, because I think that Jayden Daniels is going to have another field day, hopefully.
Yeah.
And I also think that Kyler Murray is going to feast. That's a fun game. Definitely a fun game.
Yeah.
All right. So I guess that kind of wraps things up for us here, Jeremy.
Sure.
Thank you guys for watching. Jeremy, thank you guys. Thank you for being here. If you're still
Thank
watching,
you.
please tell us how great we are. Tell us how awful we are. Tell us how wrong we are about the Cowboys and how they're going to shock everybody and win the Super Bowl. Or tell us that I'm wrong about Malik Nabers being a future top 5 wide receiver in the league. I don't know. Just like and subscribe, comment. Tell us how great we are. Tell us how bad we are. Thank you for watching, and we will see you next week.